podcast that we have.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. We'll roll with that. Yeah, so this is the Sounds Like Nonsense podcast, where we have your hosts, me, Lyle, and Summer, where we'll be talking about random topics and probably other things as well, like music. Yeah, this has been something that we've been wanting to do for a while, so I feel like we should let's get right into it. I thought in this podcast series, it would be a good idea to say an album that I had recently listened to, and as I'm a man of prog, I thought we'll start off with a lesser known album known as Octopus by Gentle Giant. So Octopus, to me, is actually a really cool album. It's kind of like, we'll go over some basic details. It was released in the 1st of December 1972 and was Gentle Giant's 4th studio album. And what makes it a cool album to me is just the fact, the sounds of the album and all the things that go into it. There's not many albums that I can say that sound like an old medieval town that's feels so alive and so amazing, really, in its sound choreography. It's got this medieval theme, and it's got all these different instruments that you just don't typically hear in songs. I want to go over some of the songs that actually are in the album. So the first song is The Advent of Panurge, and it's just this kind of this bombastic introduction to this world that the bandmates are trying to make, and it's just got all these different parts coming in at different times, and it's really chaotic, yet also it's not. And again, with all the instruments, you got all the plucking of the I guess the violin. I don't know exactly what the instrument is that they use, but it's just, I don't know. It's such a good track, and then it goes into the second track, which for the life of me I can't pronounce. Raconteur Troubledore, and it sounds like some sort of Harry Potter spell, but it's just like this do 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 boom boom do 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 ba 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 boo. It's got this friendliness to each track that is just, I love it. I love listening to this album. And then being prog, it's got these tracks in between, A Cry for Everyone and Knots, and they're so different. They're so interesting. I'm gonna skip A Cry for Everyone and just go to Knots, because Knots to me stands out as this song that just, I don't think anyone would normally listen to it, because it's just got all these random parts, no one's listening to that, but I also love it. I can't, it shouldn't work, yet it does. It's such an interesting song.
Well, that's the entire thing about prog rock, isn't it? Or just prog in general. Just getting a bunch stuff together that shouldn't work.
Yeah, just getting a bunch of instruments, and then just put them together.
Yeah, or it's funny how you say instruments as well, because you barely hear instruments in modern music.
Yeah,
you just don't.
That's the thing with a lot of modern tracks. It's kind of just, you're not really listening to what feels like a song that's been put together by one person.
Yeah.
What you're listening to is all these separate little tracks put together in an album that isn't felt isn't made by one person.
Yeah.
So you'll have song lyrics written by one person, you have a melody written by another, and it kind of feels like people just have a name behind it. There's no actual there's no oomph to it. And that's what I love about these old-timey albums. They're timeless. They really, and they've got this heart and soul behind them. There isn't really a lot on this album. I love I'll talk about the album cover art in a minute, because there's two. There's actually an alternate cover, but I love them both as well. But we'll go on to the second side. Has the boys in the band, and this is if we were to do like Lyle's favorite track of the album. This hands down is just it's good. It starts off with, I honestly think, it's obviously not the most popular song, but I think it's really iconic. It starts off with a penny dropping, and then the penny kind of like starts obviously rattling and falling over, and then it obviously, as it falls over and tumbling, it builds up more and more speed as it's reaching its climax, and then as it does reach its climax, it then bursts into this the start of the song, and it's just wow! It's such a amazing song. It's like it's the like you feel that energy that goes into it. It just really fun to listen to, and with prog it goes into different tempo changes and all these other things, but it's just such a interesting song. And I know I'm gonna say it of all these songs, but I love it. I I can just listen to it over and over again because it just sounds like the title suggests. It sounds like boys in a band. It sounds like if you got your mates all together and just to play a song. Like, it's just crazy, insane, but fun. It's just great.
Well, that's what music was back then, wasn't it? It was just people coming together in a band, you know, just like messing around, seeing what would happen. Whereas a lot of more commercial stuff these days, it is all just locked in the studio. You know, like you said, you got like so many songwriters just for one song. I could probably get up, like, look on Wikipedia for a modern song, and it'd probably have like 5 songwriters on it.
And I think another aspect to like the music industry is the fact that a lot of songs now feel like they have that moment that can just be clipped out and put into like TikTok or YouTube, whatever. That like viral part of the song. And it's almost like a lot of songs are kind of forming into this mix match of just stew of music. It's all about 3 minutes long. They all sound similar because they know what formula works. Are we kind of reaching a point where we're ironically have all these different songs from the past sound completely different to the ones now because we're almost limiting ourselves so that things can become more popular? I don't know, it's an interesting thought to have.
It feels like we're relying more on formulas.
It does.
We know work, and it's not just the same with music as well. It's the same with movies, like all these reboots and remakes that we keep seeing at the moment. You know, and there was there was a survey that just came out that said that more people would prefer to see original content.
Yeah.
So there is demand for it, but it's almost as if people are just afraid to take creative risks in these creative industries. And it's like, but you know, this is how history is made, you know, these are how pioneers are formed, you know.
It's just, it makes you appreciate these tracks more because it's almost like they're the pioneers. These are the kind of people that put forward what other songs could sound like in the future, and you'll hear glimpses of this track in one part and glimpses of influence in other, and that's why I always appreciate like that kind of, because this is a 70s band and maybe it's not that influential now, but back in the day, it actually probably did influence a lot of people
Yeah.
into how they make their songs. There's always that, it's the butterfly's wings, the butterfly effect. It's just the butterfly flaps its wings, and it makes a tornado by the end of it.
Exactly.
But to finish off the last couple songs, we have The Dog's Life, Think of Me with Kindness, and River. So again, The Dog's Life is a song that's just, it's a playful one. To be honest, I don't remember much from The Dog's Life. I think it is a pretty decent track, but it's probably the one that stands out the least to me. But I think that is not to say with Think of Me with Kindness, because it, again, I love that prog, you just kind of be listening to it, and you've all these funky songs, and then all of a sudden you get hit with this quite mellow song, this quite serious kind of sweet song, and again, it's just really nice to listen to because it's just a different take on songs. I don't know. It's just a nice song. It's a nice,
good
mellow song that's different to the others. That's what stands out to me.
Yeah, it's good to have songs that like break it up a little bit, not too much, but sometimes there are those songs on albums that just take you so completely off guard because it's different to what the whole album's been so far.
It does remind me a bit because with Pink Floyd and The Wall, right at the end of that album, you have this big almost play-like song called The Trial, and it's a complete different vibe for the whole kind of albums building up to it, and again, it's brilliant because it's a look into the guy's mind, and he's pitting up all of these inner voices against himself in a trial. But I mean, we'll talk about it another time, I'm sure, if I could be asked to do this in the future.
I have that on vinyl, The Wall.
Do you?
Yeah, I do.
It's a great album.
Yeah, my granddad gave it to me. Same. I also have. I'm pretty sure I have Wish You Were Here as well.
Another classic.
And I've also got Amagama.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And then the album ends with a song called River, and I think it just finishes off the album really nicely. It sticks with the theme. It's got a cool motif, I guess. The boom, meow, meow, bow, meow, bow, bow, wow. It's really catchy, and I love listening to that bit. And I think so. I'd say about the first two and the last song have a lot more in common than the rest.
Yeah.
For me, it feels like those songs are probably near the best of the album. It's those three, and of course, The Boys in the Band being my favorite. Those four are the standout songs of the album, and the rest are nice. The rest are good to listen to, but you're gonna have some people that struggle to listen to Knots. I don't blame them. It's a tricky song to listen to, but I kind of like it for that because it stands out.
Yeah, I think you'd get quite a few people that do struggle to listen to prog. Yeah. I think it comes to attention spans as well, because obviously prog songs can get pretty lengthy.
Well, yeah, a lot of prog songs go on for a very long time, but that's what I love about prog.
What's the longest song on that album?
Actually, it's quite a different prog album because the longest song is only about 6 minutes, which isn't too long in prog standards.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a prog album. There's no doubting that it's got all the motifs and all the little bits and bobs that make an album like that work. I nearly forgot. Have to talk about the album art. Octopus got a huge ass octopus on the front of it. I mean, it can't get much cooler than that. It literally is just a massive octopus on the front of the album, and it just looks cool. There isn't going to be a deep philosophical part to this. I just think the octopus looks cool and the album art looks cool.
Yeah.
Funny enough, there's actually an alternative cover for the US and Canadian release, and it's just an octopus in a jar. But I also think that looks really cool. It just looks aggressive. It looks so cool. It just stands out.
Yeah.
Both of them. I mean, the octopus on the sea looks more is the aggressive one. Probably the colours. It's bright, vibrant red, and I guess it goes along with this kind of seaside town theme that I was thinking in my head with the medieval theme. And then you got this alternate cover which has just the octopus in a jar. I'm sure there's connotations you can think of that, but I'm not here to look into that. I just think it looks cool.
No, it's just I do find prog to be a very interesting genre, but it can also be quite like, I'm trying to think of the right word to use, not snobby, but like you do get some people who are like, oh yes, I like prog, ooh. It's like obviously so
yes, frog.
Yeah, obviously I'm a massive Phil Collins fan.
Yeah.
But his the origins of his career were in a prog band, were as part of Genesis back when Peter Gabriel was lead singer, and it was definitely more a prog rock group. But then obviously Peter left, and then Phil became lead singer, and it was still prog. I would say they were definitely still prog up until maybe. No, see, I think they were still prog, but it was more prog pop rather than prog rock, and obviously a lot of people didn't like that at all. They're like, oh, Phil's trying to change the band ever since he became lead singer, da da da, just because of the singles that they released. But obviously, you know, you want the singles you release to be the ones that you know are going to be the most commercially successful, so that people actually buy the album.
Yeah.
And then when you do listen to Phil's era, you know, like Duke, for example, that's probably my favourite Genesis album, if I had to go out there. It was a lot more arty as well, but, you know, it still had those elements of prog. You know, it had a beginning, middle and end, repeated motifs throughout, but it also had, you know, the tracks that the band knew were going to be more commercially successful, so they released them. But, you know, it's interesting looking back on it now, when I look through comments of like YouTube videos of the Collins Genesis stuff, and everyone's like, oh, I didn't appreciate this back in the day because, you know, I was such a hardcore prog rock person, I was devastated when Peter left. But looking back at it now, you know, it was good stuff. Do I think that may happen with some of the modern music that comes out today? Do I think we're gonna, you know, go back on the comment section and think, oh god, yeah, I didn't appreciate this back in the day, but do you know what, this is fire? I'm not too sure, but then again, I can't see in the future. And again, I've also just kind of proved my point about how most music fans are snobs, but, you know, all of the die-hard music fans are to a certain extent, but I don't push my snobbery that much onto others, and I don't make people feel bad about the stuff that they like as well. Like I can say that I don't like it, but I do respect other people's opinions.
See, I don't. No, I know exactly what you mean. When you're listening to a song now and you'd be like, oh wow, this is terrible. How could anyone like it? And then a few years later, be like, oh, this is great. A good example for me, listening the 2012 classic Gangnam Style.
Oh,
you listen
God.
To that, you go, yeah. First year listening to it, this is great. Open Whoopin' Gangnam Style, awesome. Then, you know, a couple years go by. No, I don't want to listen to that.
No.
That's cringe. Then, a few more years come by, and then it's great again. And that's just, I think that's kind of the cycle, really.
Yeah.
Of Gangnam Style.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's a great Gangnam Style.
I think it makes you realise that as you grow older, or just as years go by,
yeah,
you'll probably appreciate songs that you didn't like in the past. So, recently I watched a fantastic movie. It's in theatres right now. Dune Part 2.
Oh, okay.
Oh my god. Have I never watched a series and then understood why I love film? Like, it made me re-enjoy my love of film. Because I haven't gone to the theatres much recently. Because just, I don't know, just haven't. There's not really an excuse, just haven't. And I watched Dune and I was like, oh wow. Yeah, movies are great. I love movies. It's just, it's one of those movies where so much happens, and yet, well, I'm not going to say so much happens, and yet, it goes by so quickly because it's 2 hours and 45 minutes. Trust me, it goes on for a while, but it's worth that time. I think is what I'm trying to say. It's worth the 2 hours and 45 minutes. You get engrossed into this movie. You want to know what happens next. And basically it's all about this guy that goes down and basically becomes this god. Well, it's like Messiah. That's the original people down there that live on the planet. They see him as a Messiah, and he has to go and save them. But then it's so much more. It's all about politics, and it's all about like everyone's role in the world, and it's all about who you can trust and who you can't, and it's just fascinating to look into it. The original, it was actually a book series by Frank Herbert, and it's one of those book series as it goes on, the further it goes on, the weirder it becomes, and like by the end of it, there's like worm people, and like for some reason a guy called Duncan that keeps coming back. Like they revive him, like I swear 4 or 5 times in the book series. But yeah, it is a really, really good movie. I think the director Dennis, he smashed it out the park, because apparently the book is seen as this like unadaptable series. You just can't adapt it, and I think he did a really good job. To be honest, I have not read the book, but from what I've heard online, he's done a really good job with adapting it into the big screen with his own little twists here and there. And yeah, I just think it's a really good movie, and I think everyone should watch it. Obviously, watch the first part.
Oh yeah, parts. No, yeah. Just go watch part 2 without having seen the first part.
Actually, the director did make it in such a way that you can kind of watch the second one without knowing what happens as much in the first one. Obviously, it helps knowing the first one, but the whole first part was a bit slow because it's setting up for the second one. Yeah. Like so the Dune part 1 and part 2 is just the one Dune book. There's like 6 books. He's already done the adaptation of the first book, and Dune Part 1 is the first half of the book, and Dune Part 2 is the second half. And Dune Part 1, because of that, is slow and methodical. It goes over each character, and it goes over kind of what they're doing. And a lot of people kind of say, well, nothing happens in the movie, and I kind of agree. A lot doesn't happen in that movie. But it makes sense because it's building up to the second movie where everything happens. But yeah, go watch Doom.
Yeah. I can't remember the last film I went and saw in the cinema. Was that the last one? I honestly think the last time I went to the cinema was the 20th anniversary screening of Love Actually with Anna at Christmas.
Oh, wow.
I honestly think that Can it really? Wait, when did I go see? Or when did I go? When did I go see the Marvels? Yeah, no, that must have been last year as well. And that would have been before Love Actually. Yeah, because the Marvels was November. So yeah, the Marvels is the last new release that I've seen in the cinema. But the last time I actually went to the cinema was to see the 20th anniversary screening of Love Actually in cinema. And do you know what? It was bloody fantastic. It was just. I mean, it's Love Actually. It's peak Christmas film. Don't care what anyone says. I will watch it every single year, and I will want to hit Alan Rickman every single year for what his character did to Emma Thompson's character, and that's just a universal experience.
I always watch Elf every year.
Elf.
Yeah. People hate Elf. I also hate it, but I also love it. It's kind of like a lovely relationship with the movie. Sure, we have one more thing to talk about before we call it a day. I tasked you with to think of something before coming on. Did you take the torch, or did you not really think of anything?
I did.
Well, go on then. Reveal it to the world. The topic that you want to talk about.
The topic that I shall be talking about today is public transport.
Oh, you've picked a good one.
I have.
Go on then.
I have.
Why do you want to talk about that?
Well, you know, I am an avid public transport user. I get the bus to work every single day. I used to get the train. That was just an absolute pain. Getting the train, just trains in this country. Not to sound like a Karen on Maine and just complain, but the trains in this country are just absolutely crap. They're just crap.
They just never seem to be either on time or working.
No.
I mean,
yeah.
you know, that counts like cancellations I've had in the past, and I've had to wait hours until the next train.
Yeah.
And it's like you'd think they'd get a system down or something, you know? No. Yeah, it's apparently not.
Yeah.
And it just feels like a lot of the time as well. It's all the train strikes, and so just how long can they do train strikes for? I'm generally curious how long someone could do. Like, it's been years. At one point, do you not just either give up or like overthrow the government? Because it's just either one of the two is going to happen. It's either people get so fed up they're going to run around with pitchforks and flames, or either that, or they just literally give up and just carry on as normal.
Sometimes it's not even strikes though. It was last weekend was Mother's Day, and I don't live at home. My family live in Southampton, and I don't. So I was planning on getting the train down to Southampton for Mother's Day. No, I look, and they're doing engineering works on Mother's Day weekend. Make it make sense. You've had so many weekends where there's absolutely nothing going on, and you choose Mother's Day weekend when people are going to be visiting their mums or just their family in general.
I can't quite see what goes through their minds when they think of doing it on a popular day.
Yeah, it happens during Easter as well. I remember Easter a few years ago, they were doing engineering works over Easter weekend. I'm like, why? Why choose the most inconvenient time to do engineering works? It just doesn't make sense. And then it's a replacement bus service. But it's not just one bus you have to get. No. I'd have to get the train to Havant, get the bus from Havant to Fratton. Oh wait, no. I'd have to get the train to Barnham first, and then probably change there to then get to Havant, to then get the bus there, to then get the bus from Havant to Fratton, to then either get a bus or a train from Fratton to Southampton Central. And it's too much. It's too much to do just just, you know, I love my mum. I love my mum dearly. But she said, Summer, if it's going to be that much of a pain, is it worth coming down just for a meal?
But you ain't doing all that.
No, like, it would have taken me 2 hours, well, an estimated 2 hours to get there, to then have to get the bus from town to where I would have been meeting my family, to then do the exact same thing on the way back when I've got work the next morning. If I didn't have work the next morning, it would have been a different story. But, you know, I did have work the next morning, which, again, relying on public transport to get... Oh, it's great. I don't want people listening to this thinking, just get a driver's license. I do have a driver's license, but let me tell you, getting a car is not cheap. Getting a car for your first time is not cheap. It's not the car that's expensive.
That's not
it's
even
the insurance.
The insurance, the MOT.
It is the insurance
gas
that is
you have to put
really...
into it,
Yeah,
petrol.
exactly. The petrol as well. Like, I'm very grateful for the fact that we do have some sort of public service infrastructure, because I know that it's not like that in some countries, and I am grateful for it. But at the same time, if everything's going up, where is the money being put into?
I think that there's one thing worse than the buses and the trains, and that's the ferries. Because I tell you, living on the Isle of Wight. Well, first of all, I live on the Isle of Wight. That in itself is just sad. I'm not gonna live here forever, but for the time being, I'm staying here. And I tell you, getting a ferry from the Isle of Wight to the mainland puts a hole in your wallet. It costs an extortionate amount. I think I saw somewhere it's saying something like it's the most expensive crossing per distance in the world.
Really?
I don't know if I believe that. I'm sure there's somewhere else, but like it's really expensive. It is really, really expensive. I remember last time I went up, I think it was 18, 20 pounds just one way, and then it's 20 pounds back, or about 18, 20 pounds back. It's just extortionate. They have you at gunpoint, because what are you going to do? You can't, like, I'm not swimming over, am I? There's nothing else you can do. We've got
Why
no
not?
bridges,
It'd
no
be
tunnels.
great exercise swimming to the Isle of Wight.
I wouldn't recommend it. I think you can swim away from the Isle of Wight.
No,
People
they
with
need...
spears would just chuck them at you if you come anywhere close.
They need to do They need to do like a Eurotunnel, but for the Isle of Wight.
Yeah, but no one would come here. That's the problem. You've built a tunnel, and then everyone would just mass exodus out.
Yeah, be mass immigration from the Isle of Wight.
And then we'll invade the mainland to see how they like it.
Oh
Summer.
no! Over my dead body, mate.
Well, I don't know if I want to go to Southampton. It's about on par with the island. That's not doing too well.
Better than Portsmouth.
Well, I guess that's something we both agree on. Yeah, well, I think that's all we have time for today. So, yeah, Summer, you got anything to say?
Drink water, stay hydrated. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Stay hydrated,
yeah.
Stay in school.
Do all those things,
yep.
And have a good time.
Yeah.
Alright, see ya.
See ya.